Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay City Council will be asked to back a joint bid by the city and Fort William First Nation to host a Noront Ferrochrome processing facility when it meets tomorrow night. Noront has picked 4 cities as potential hosts of a smelter that would turn raw chromite ore from the Ring of Fire into ferrochrome, the main ingredient in stainless steel. Economic development officials from the city and First Nation have suggested Mission Island as their preferred site due to the site's size and the ease of access by road, rail, and water. Tomorrow night, Council will be asked for its formal approval of the bid ahead of Noront's February 2nd deadline. Meanwhile, Council will also be briefed on efforts to find funding for stormwater management plans. It includes capital improvements as well as programs meant to help with drainage. It was World Snow Day today, a chance to celebrate the white stuff when we aren't shoveling it out of our driveways, and a perfectly appropriate day for another Winter Fun Day activity. The day's events featured a winter scavenger hunt and a snowman building competition. It was families with kids, for the most part, playing in the snow on the hills and admiring their frozen creations, and the favorable weather definitely helped out for this Winter Fun Day activity.
It's a traditional activity, the easy one. If it's a snow day or the kids are looking for something to do on the weekend, you send them outside. Most days in Canada, the snow is perfect for a snowman, nice and packy. Today, we lucked out. It's amazing. It was warm yesterday, set the snow really well for us.
And for those not interested in being outdoors, there was also a paper snowflake making in the Baggage Arts building. You can call it a comeback for cruise lines here in Thunder Bay. The city's tourism department has announced that the new Victory 2 cruise ship will be visiting the area this year during a tour of the Great Lakes. It'll be the first time since 2012 that touring vessels will dock at Pool 6. Jason Gaidola has the story.
Luxury cruise ships were a thing in the past in Thunder Bay, but are now set to make its return. After a 6-year absence in the Lake Superior region, a new cruise line will dock in the city this summer. The Victory 2 makes its debut in July. Tourism manager Paul Pepe says the stopover will offer tourists a fun and educational experience.
Their guests are looking for an enriched experience. They want to learn about the culture of the Great Lakes on their cruise. And so you won't find a casino on board, you won't find a big swimming pool. It's very much about it's a learning experience, it's an educational experience.
The 200-plus passengers will visit several destinations in the Great Lakes, with stops in Duluth, Milwaukee, and Detroit. A full trip south to the Windsor-Detroit border goes for just over $6,000, including the flight fare from Toronto to Thunder Bay. Pepe says Thunder Bay's international airport plays an important role in the Victory 2's itinerary and continues to have a positive impact in the local economy.
Ship owners said Thunder Bay made sense for them because they create a very unique itinerary that focused largely on Lake Superior, and their clients could conveniently get in and out of the city to pick up the boat. And so we're working very closely with Victory to develop pre- and post itineraries and ideas so that their guests will book a day or two in advance, come in for a day or two and explore the city before they sail out.
Cruise lines have found success before in Thunder Bay. The Clelia and Columbus generated over $2.4 million in economic activity during their visits pre-2012. Pepe feels the city's past success with those ships was a good sample size.
You know, their economic impact every visit in the port was between about $40,000 and $60,000 while they were in port, and they were just a day stop for about 8 hours. So their guests disembark, they go explore the city, they're chartering motor coaches, they're chartering taxi cabs, they're attending to attractions, and then a lot of those guests are spending money in retail while they're at those attractions and while they're in the community as well.
Pepe says that every $1 million earned in tourism can support 16 jobs, with Thunder Bay hosting the Victory 2 as the first ever turnaround ship the city has ever had, and its past economic success. Pepe predicts up to 40 new jobs will be created in 2019. Jason Gaidola, TBT News.
Patty Haidu is making the rounds along the North Shore this past week, sitting down and speaking with municipal councils and organizations in several communities. On Wednesday evening, she met with some residents from Terrace Bay at a town hall style event. Haidu listened to their thoughts and concerns about life in the region. Adam Riley was there and he files this report.
I hate as a teacher to reward that behavior, but
Unlike the town halls being hosted by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, things are a little tamer in Terrace Bay. As Patty Haidu sat down with residents to get insight from her constituents. She says despite being a minister, she's still the MP for Thunder Bay Superior North and wants to hear from those living in the area.
And I can't do a good job of that if I'm not out in the communities talking to people about what their issues are, what their concerns are, what they're happy about, what they're not so happy about. And that's what makes me a better representative for the region.
So I just have general questions. I don't know much about the process going into inquire about that. I know that the mill did have a meeting last year about the air quality, so citizens were concerned about it.
It was a small crowd for the 2-hour event, but not a quiet one, as residents spoke with their federal representative.
Topics of discussion range from truth and reconciliation to the environment to even childcare, items normally not seen within Haidoo's ministerial portfolio. But she says it's all part of being an MP. Sometimes she has to act as a conduit, networking constituents to those who are able to help at both the federal and provincial levels of government.
People are concerned about the quality of life in terms of the environment. You know, this is an area that is really interconnected to the great outdoors and to nature, and so some concerns about the quality of the environment in terms of the mill that is in operation here. So we hear concerns that are things that I can do things about, things that I would have to work with my provincial counterpart with, and that's exactly what I expect when I come to them.
Haidoo also spoke about her riding and the Kenora riding being in the top 5 constituencies in the country as far as the total amount of federal funding announcements received since the Liberals rose to power just over 2 years ago.
We have had an infrastructure deficit both in Thunder Bay but also all throughout the region. Communities have struggled with some of the most basic things like clean water, access to housing, affordable housing, roads, a variety of different kinds of projects, energy, broadband. These are the kinds of things that people have been working on for a long time. So it's always very fulfilling for me when I can support a community in their endeavors.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
And speaking of town halls, the Premier of Ontario will be holding one here in Thunder Bay later this month. Kathleen Wynne will host the pre-election public event at the Italian Cultural Centre on Wednesday, January 31st. It's free admission on a first-come, first-served basis beginning at 6 p.m. with doors opening at 5. Well, turning back to federal politics, a government plan to increase the tax on alcohol has been met with significant backlash from beer fans. Excise duties are set to go up by 2% and starting next year will be adjusted annually on April 1st. An organization that represents the major beer producers called Beer Canada is making noise expressing their concern over the tax increases. They say with rising costs, beer drinkers are going to see an increase in how much they pay for their favorite brew. But one of the owners of Sleeping Giant Brewing Company, Matt Pearson, says at this point, it's actually not that big of a concern.
If we did our exact same numbers this year that we did last year, it would cost us an extra $500. So the actual increase to us would be over the course of a year, and when you break it down by the can or however you produce beer, it's almost negligible, and it's not a cost we would ever pass on to the consumer.
Pearson says the tax hike and inflationary pressures may eventually lead to problems for the company, but he says Sleeping Giant Brewing has always been able to come up with innovative ways to keep their prices consistent when faced with cost problems in the past. We've been fortunate to enjoy some milder temperatures lately here in the Northwest, especially for this time of year. But if that wasn't mild enough for you, there was a tropical getaway just around the corner this afternoon for Thunder Bay residents. The community was welcomed into the conservatory as part of the annual Afternoon in the Tropics put on by the Friends of the Conservatory. There was live music, snacks, and games to play as guests looked around at the exotic plants. And those with the organization say it's a fun way to escape the cold.
Not everybody has the opportunity to go away, to warmer climates in the wintertime, but the conservatory is open 7 days a week. So people who want a little bit of green fix and moist tropical air can come here and relax and enjoy.
The conservatory uses the event to maintain public interest during the winter months, something they consider one of the hidden treasures here in Thunder Bay. Hospitality students at St. Ignatius High School were paid a visit by a significant alumni this past week. Jennifer Riley dropped by her alma mater to do a cupcake decorating workshop with some grade 12 students. She owns a local cake decorating company, and her work has been featured in numerous international magazines and cake decorating TV shows. Riley says she's thrilled to pass on her experiences to students in the same place that she grew up.
It's exciting, the school has changed so much. Like, I'm standing where used to be our cafeteria. The school looks great. It's amazing.
It was a fantastic opportunity just to have somebody who this is their job, and for them to be able to see that this course has real life applications for people, and you know, this is someone who's a professional.
Yeah, the kids are very lucky to have Jen come in today. It's a really good opportunity for them to see what it's like when you're working in the real world, when you're outside of the school walls.
What I've enjoyed is it's a lot of fun. We're working with the fondant. It's difficult, but I think that's what makes it fun. It's a little bit of a challenge.
The teachers add that it's a great experience for the class to meet a former St. Ignatius student who has turned their passion into a successful career. And Shane, I can tell you from experience of all the innovations in cooking technology, buttercream might be the best one. It is delicious.
It is delicious, Carlisle. Big day of sports today. We had the NFC and AFC championships. The Thunder Wolves were also in action against Western last night.